Hi everybody, it's Ben at the Summit Lighthouse. Namaste. I'm here to make part 2 of a video that I've done on Buddhism. I do have prior videos on Buddhism posted, however these are marked as separate videos as they both contain new information. So this is part 2, and basically what I'll be delivering here are corrections and a few expanded points based upon what I put forth in the first video. My friend in Michigan is part of a Dzogchen school and lineage, and I'm looking a little bit at how that differs from Vajrayana and so on, to hone my understanding of Buddhism and also to see where he weighs in on my description and to see how he can contribute and so forth, if he finds it necessary to do so. So this is really an overview of Buddhism, the different kinds of Buddhism, and so forth. And I have a list here. What I think that I'm going to do from this point forward, when I make videos, the videos contain information rather relevant to all of the people in the Summit Lighthouse. And my contention is that Holy Orders generates an understanding of the changes in hierarchy. So we know, for instance, that in 1956, Jesus graduated from the 6th grade to become one of the world teachers with Kuthumi. He is now in the office of world teacher, which is an office that he shares with the Ascended Master Kuthumi, at which point Nada in 1956 became Chohan. So that's the sort of hierarchical change to which I'm referring. Do I think that these changes occur with a good deal of frequency? Not particularly with a good deal of frequency. I mean, it's all, relatively speaking, I think that they are rare changes, but I do believe that they occur, and when they do occur, it's important for us within Holy Orders to understand them and to incorporate them. Mother Elizabeth Clare Prophet was found by the Church, the Summit Lighthouse, to now be an embodiment of Goddess Meru. This differs a little bit from what you'll see in the competing New Age churches that are also I Am churches and that are essentially spin-offs of the Summit Lighthouse. One church says that she's now Claire de Lis. We don't acknowledge a Claire de Lis at the Summit Lighthouse, so it doesn't really... I don't want to say that it doesn't make sense for us to bring in the other information. Some people are very strict about never use any other information than the Summit Lighthouse information. I am adherent to that because I do believe that the changes are part of the jewels, if you will. They are incredibly important from the standpoint of cosmology, from the standpoint of everything having to do with religious discourse at the Summit Lighthouse. So I'm very cautious when people say, well, I believe that this is going on. I think it's possible periodically that the other churches find emerging dharma or will find a hierarchical change, and periodically those churches are correct. So we have to watch their information too to see if it is actually part of the valid information. What I'm opposed to at the CUT, and I've already explained this in other videos, is when people, rather, Church Universal and Triumphant is also the Summit Lighthouse. When people automatically say, well, they said that over at Temple of Presence, ergo it cannot be correct. I don't believe that. I believe that it must be vetted, everything must be vetted according to our standards. But just because someone says something at the Temple of the Presence doesn't mean that it's automatically incorrect, because you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You have to consider information on a case-by-case basis. Okay, enough of that. But I think that when we proceed from this point forward, we should, for each video that I generate, there should be an accompanying sheet of annotations and points of reference, because for one thing, I'll make an hour video and there will be maybe 3 or 4 really interesting points in an hour. Sure, you might have to sift the information to find the interesting points, but they are there, the valid spiritual galvanizing points that need to be preserved and need to be made, in my view, if they're valid, they need to be made part of the record. So these accompanying sheets that I propose really that this work that this work include annotations. Every time that I generate a video, there should be a sheet of printed material accompanying that video so that I can say where I erred, for instance, within the video. Once in a while, I'll make a reference that's incorrect. And what I've done traditionally is go into YouTube and put information, printed information on the YouTube blog area so that people can compare what it is that I say to any potential corrections that need to be made. You know, I send recordings out in 20-minute format that are audio only periodically, and unfortunately, if you don't have the annotations, you might hit one or two pieces of quote-unquote bad information, but it's so rare that it really wouldn't matter, and I believe that the darshan I deliver is authentic, ergo, if you're not going to be thrown off by one or 2 points that maybe I didn't nail down to the letter. But I will generate sheets so that people, in other words, you don't have to worry about it. But I do look at it, and as we develop together, and we develop the program that is the Summit Lighthouse together, and we additionally hammer down this emerging Bible, progressive revelation, you know, I want to make sure that people are able to track what I say, when it's valid, and also to go through and understand where I might have erred with regard to references, which happens periodically. What I've done is made a list so that this new information on Buddhism will include the fruits of my conversation with my friend Rob, and also more information about Dzogchen and mind rolling and so forth. So I want to start with that now, after giving you an overview of what it is that I'm undertaking here. And I saw something interesting the other day in which one of the schools identified Buddhism, the three kinds of Buddhism, in a way that was slightly different from my initial understanding, in a way that is potentially useful. And I think it's called either Buddhist Way, Great Way, or Diamond Way. Let's see if it's Diamond Way Buddhism. They have over 630 Buddhist centers worldwide. They're Karma Kagyu. I don't find it here. I found it the other day. What we want to do is find the kinds of Buddhism. The Karmapa, the 17th Karmapa. The Rinpoches. What is Buddhism? Being Buddhist. Buddhism in the West. I wonder if I can do it off the top of my head. Here it is. Okay, I did find this. I want to quote directly from them because I had not heard it put this way before. What I had heard basically was that Theravada differs from what you typically find, for instance, in Tibetan Buddhism, partially because there's a geographic difference. The school of the elders known as Theravada is principally Southeast Asian, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Cambodia, and Burma. What it's saying here is that their goal is liberation from all disturbances. And what I said in the previous video was that Vajrayana is, many people view it as either a third path or a subset of Mahayana. So you have Theravada on one hand, Mahayana, Tibetan Buddhism on the other hand, and then Vajrayana, a subset of Mahayana or a third way, okay? What I'm going to do is read directly from diamondway-buddhism.org. I want to quote them because this is their information, and it's Karma Kagyu. I find it valid. I want to share it here. In his 45, very briefly, Buddha's teachings overviewed. In his 45-year teaching career, the Buddha gave teachings to a wide variety of people. Those who came to him fell into three main groups, as people also do today. Buddha gave them different teachings which can be classified into different types of Buddhism. You have three here. I gotta get the picture of Marshall Mathers off my screen because he's making faces at me, so I have to... Alright, I see what's going on here. Let's save it, please. Okay, save. Okay, three kinds of Buddhism. Theravada, the school of the elders. Okay, three kinds. Theravada, Mahayana, the Great Way, and Vajrayana, the Diamond Way. Alright? And Vajrayana Buddhists, to the best of my knowledge, really believe that they're the most... Many, I believe, I don't think that they vie to be the most advanced, because I think it's maybe not very Buddhist. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure if Buddhists vie or not, if there's competition. I suspect that, as with all paths, there's at least some degree of I don't know, I don't think it's acknowledgement that they're seeking, but I know that some information is incredibly important, and what's authentic and not is important, and so I'm sure the Vajrayanas feel a similar degree of have a similar desire to authenticate their path and to make sure that they're doing and saying the right thing. But Vajrayana, some Vajrayana Buddhists really believe that their Buddhism is really the most advanced. And yet what they're saying here is that you can be, if you're Theravada, this is at what they're saying at diamondway-buddhism.org, which is Karma Kagyu lineage, that if you're Mahayana and Theravada, and if you're Vajrayana, you're all three. But Theravada is really just basically Theravada. That's how they explain it here. Let me read it to you. Theravada is the school of the elders. The Theravada provides teachings about cause and effect, karma, as well as pacifying meditations to create distance from difficult thoughts and feelings. Following these teachings, also described as the small way, in Sanskrit, Hinayana, the understanding arises that thoughts and feelings are not personal. So that's very, very Buddhist undertaking. This gives us the opportunity to act in a beneficial way and accumulate positive karma. The teachings spread mainly through countries in Southeast Asia, including Sri Lanka, Thailand, Cambodia, and Burma. Today, the School of the Elders, Sanskrit Theravada, is the closest example of this type of Buddhism. Their goal is liberation from all disturbances. Okay? So, Diamond Way Buddhism is saying that the cause and effect teachings and the desire to pursue pacifying meditations to create that distance from the difficult thought is unique to Theravada or specific to Theravada. That's what they're presenting at Diamond Way Buddhism. I hadn't heard it put that way. I had always thought, well, that's something that all Buddhists undertake, but they're associating it specifically with Theravada. Not that Mahayana and Vajrayana do not also pursue control of thoughts and feelings, because they do as well, but Diamond Way Buddhism is saying that Theravada is really the initiating branch when it comes to controlling the mind. The Buddhist effort to control thoughts and feelings. That's Theravada, according to Diamond Way. Mahayana, second part, Great Way. Mahayana means the Great Way, it also means the Great Vehicle. Mahayana teachings attract people whose primary motivation in life is to be useful to others, also known as the Bodhisattva attitude. The teachings and meditations of the Great Way aim to gradually increase compassion and wisdom. Supporting development on this way is the wisdom that the world is like a dream, therefore it can be changed through our thoughts, words, and actions. These Buddhist teachings spread chiefly through Northern Asia, into Japan, Vietnam, China, Tibet, and Korea. For this reason, the Great Way, Sanskrit Mahayana schools are also known as Northern Buddhist schools. Their goal is to become not just liberated, but fully enlightened for the benefit of all. The Mahayana includes the Theravada teachings. So Mahayana, according to them, is the aim to gradually increase compassion and wisdom, but also I believe that it is the desire to change the world through outpicturing. I believe that's what's being expressed here. They're saying the world is like a dream, therefore it can be changed through our thoughts, words, and actions. So you have Theravada, you can control your thoughts and your feelings. Mahayana, you can change the world through your thoughts, words, and actions. So two different efforts. And now Vajrayana, the diamond way, is Buddhist teaching described as the diamond way, Sanskrit Vajrayana, are about the mind itself. Buddhist teachings described as the diamond way are about the mind itself. Okay? These direct teachings that Buddha gave are for those who have a special kind of confidence. They understand that they can only perceive perfection outside because they have the same innate perfection inside. In Vajrayana, the Buddha is not considered a person, rather he is a mirror to our own mind. The teachings point out mind's perfect qualities directly. They are often known as Buddhist Tantra. When Buddhism was destroyed in its native land, these teachings survived mainly in Tibet. The Vajrayana also includes the Theravada and Mahayana teachings. So, Diamond Way, Vajrayana. This is, I had never heard it put this way. I had never heard Theravada Buddhism as it's native to Cambodia and Burma to be focusing on, primarily on the pacifying meditations. It's a new concept to me that it would be divided in this fashion, but I can see the benefit and the value to saying that it goes in this direction. I wanted to make sure that I got that out there. Now I want to look up a couple of things that he mentioned. Okay, Sambhogakaya is one of the three bodies of a Buddha. A Sambhogakaya Buddha is enlightened and purified of defilements, yet he remains distinctive. Amitabha Buddha is a Sambhogakaya Buddha, for example. Vairocana is the Buddha who represents the Dharmakaya, but when he appears in a distinctive form, he is a Sambhogakaya Buddha. And I believe Sambhogakaya is equivalent to the enjoyment body. Sambhogakaya is the body of enjoyment, or the body that experiences the fruits of Buddhist practice and the bliss of enlightenment. Some teachers compare Dharmakaya to vapor or atmosphere, Sambhogakaya to clouds, and Nirmanakaya to rain. Clouds are a manifestation of atmosphere that enables rain. Buddhas as objects of devotion. Buddha is depicted as, I'm taking this from learnreligions.com. The section header is Sambhogakaya, and obviously it's under Buddhism. Buddha is depicted as idealized transcendent beings in Mahayana art are nearly always Sambhogakaya Buddhas. The Nirmanakaya body is an earthly body that lives and dies, and the Dharmakaya body is formless and without distinction, nothing to see. A Sambhogakaya Buddha is enlightened and purified of defilements, yet he remains distinctive. Many of the Buddhas mentioned in Mahayana sutras are Sambhogakaya Buddhas. When the Lotus Sutra cites the Buddha, for example, it is referring to the Sambhogakaya form of Shakyamuni Buddha, the Buddha of the present age. We know this from the description in the first chapter of the Lotus Sutra. Sambhogakaya Buddhas are described in the sutras as appearing in celestial realms or pure lands, often accompanied by hosts of bodhisattvas and other enlightened beings. The Kagyu teacher, Traleg Rinpoche, explained, it is said that the Sambhogakaya manifests not in any kind of spatial or physical location, but in a place that is not really a place of nowhere called Akanishta, or Waknyun in Tibetan. Wakmi means not underneath, suggesting that Akanishta, because it is a field of nowhere, is all encompassing. Ultimately, Waknyan refers to emptiness or sunyata. Are these Buddhas real? From most Mahayana perspectives, only the Dharmakaya body is entirely quote-unquote real. Interesting, because the Dharmakaya is the one that you can't see. The Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakaya bodies are just appearances or emanations of the Dharmakaya. Possibly because they manifest in Pure Land, Sambhogakaya Buddhas are described as preaching the Dharma to other celestial beings. Their subtle form appears only to those ready to see it. In Tibetan Tantra, Sambhogakaya is also the speech of a Buddha or the manifestation of the Buddha in sound. And I want to show you the chart of our divine self, but before I do that, I want to make sure that I have the TSL information up on the screen so that you can see our point of view when it comes to that. Okay, 3 poisons. I won't get into that yet. Not all Buddhists celebrate Buddha's birthday the same way. We do celebrate Wesak. Fascinating. Okay, so I covered Sambhogakaya. And I'll give you a preliminary glimpse into the Summit Lighthouse. Let me make sure I can see what I'm doing here. Switching back to the camera. Take a look at our card, and I'll show it to you again, but if you can see the three images, the 3 individual entities, the top one might be difficult for you to see because he is almost entirely obscured by the light of the Dharmakaya, which is here, called the monad. And I will give you, also called the monad, Yogi Raj mentioned that that is very theosophic to refer to this as the monad. And that's a very Madame Blavatsky preference as well. Madame Blavatsky style preference. But there's a figure here, there's an intervening figure here, the higher self, and it's Jesus, which you can see when I hold it very close to the camera. Actually, that's not Jesus. I have the other card right now, and I believe that's Guru Nanak. But on most of our cards, or many of our cards, that is Jesus. Now it's Guru Nanak because this card is actually for, is it Guru Nanak or is it, it's actually not Guru Nanak, I believe that it is Zoroaster. It actually is Zoroaster, Zarathustra. I get them confused. That's Zarathustra. So this card is for Zoroastrians at the Summit Lighthouse. And see, that's the you in embodiment right now. You see the quote-unquote rain to which the Buddhists referred is actually the violet fire in our rendering, the violet flame. And what is at his feet? It doesn't even look like it's on the card itself. Look at that thing. What is that? I don't even see it here when I look at it. Oh, I see. It's actually a hole in the cardboard where I had it attached to my wall. Okay, so this is Zoroastrian. It's called the Chart of the Divine Self at the Summit Lighthouse. So this is unique to Summit. But this is the Zoroastrian version. We have Buddhist versions where you'll see a cross-legged, I think it's Shakyamuni right here in the middle. But in this instance, as stated, it's Zoroaster, also known as Zarathustra. But I'll explain how this ties to the Buddhist concept of the triple body in a minute. I wanted to show that to you first. So I hit Sambhogakaya, and I want to explain Dzogchen as efficiently as possible, although I mentioned in the other video, and I'm not really the one to be talking about it in too much detail. Mind rolling we basically covered, but I will look up celestial devas if I have a second, and I'm in the process of telling you about the triple body. Okay, so let's take a look and see. Huh. So they're referring to three yanas here, and oh, when they say yana, they're referring to Hinayana, Mahayana, and Vajrayana, which are really the three branches, really, because Theravada is really Hinayana, vehicle of universal salvation. You remember when I was describing Diamond Way Buddhism, how they have it divided? Not only that they're geographically different kinds of Buddhism, but that they contain that they each address a specific branch of Buddhist pursuit and inquiry. So those are the three yanas, and they refer to them as Hinayana, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. There are many such vehicles for people and deities, and Buddhist vehicles among them. Vehicle of personal liberation is Hinayana. Vehicle of universal salvation is Mahayana. Vehicle of Tantra, Vajrayana. Also known as the three vehicles. Okay, the Tulkus refer to three yanas as well. You need to be logged in to play this recording. In spring 1996, Rinpoche spent 1 month at TTC Hamburg. It doesn't say which Rinpoche, but this is Ringu Tulku, so you can. It's Ringu Tulku Rinpoche. On the 4 weekends, I don't know what that is, he taught on the three yanas, but they're dividing it into 4. So they're saying one Hinayana, mainly the Four Noble Truths. So when I talk about the Four Noble Truths, and that's centered to what I have taught, that's interesting that that's very Theravadan. Because I've always associated CUT TSL with Theravadan Buddhism. I don't think Theravadan is less evolved at all. I just think that it is principally different, and I think, yes, Vajrayana includes it, but it's really foundational. Theravadan is really foundational if they're just discussing the Four Noble Truths. So again, the Four Noble Truths have to do with suffering and how to overcome suffering. If you recall what Diamond Way Buddhism said about Theravada, aka Hinayana, right, the Theravadins are concerned with mind over emotion and controlling your thoughts and your emotions through purifying meditations and the proper meditative practices. The Four Noble Truths are a path that will enable you to overcome suffering. You overcome suffering by recognizing Four Noble Truths. One is that there is suffering. 2, that there is a cause for suffering. 3 is that suffering will end. So in other words, however bad it gets in the moment, it is not permanent. The pain and the suffering is not permanent. And 4 is that there's a path out of suffering. It's vital that people understand that. So people talk about religion not being practical or people having better things to do in the world. My rejoinder is religion wants to provide you with practical instruction. It wants to assist the seeker to do the right thing by way of his or her own reckoning. The Four Noble Truths is foundational to Theravada and also a foundational precept in Buddhism. So, in other words, the suffering you endure was caused by something, Figure out what it was, understand that the suffering will not last forever, all suffering ends, and understand that there's a path out. The path out in Theravada is the Eightfold Path, um, which I have discussed in another video. Then they have here listed Mahayana, and he has an Easter in quotations here, rather in parentheses, and I'm not sure if maybe that was just the date. It looks like this was in April in the 90s, so it must have been Easter, or late March, early April, which he refers to Mahayana being the 7 points of mind training. Vajrayana being the third, mainly the babble of a fool. I'm not sure what babble of a fool means. It could refer to mind rolling. It could refer to, I'm not sure why they would be, I don't know what is meant by that, but obviously it has a more profound esoteric meaning than just what is hitting us in the English translation. Mahamudra being number 4, mainly the Dorje Chung Tangma prayer. So we'd have to look into that to understand what they're doing there a little bit. Okay, Dzogchen is mentioned in close proximity to Mahamudra here. These are all going to escape me for the time being, but I just wanted to let you know how they were doling it out a little bit at the Tulku site. Emptiness. I struggle with that. I don't always have a handle on it when I read about it. Innate blissful gnosis. Cognizing emptiness non-dually. Good Lord. Okay, what is Mahamudra? Study Buddhism. Is a body of teachings found in the many of the Tibetan Buddhist schools, which includes methods for truly understanding the very nature of our own minds, leading us to enlightenment. This sounds like it must be a Dzogchen or Vajrayana. I assume that this is very Dzogchen. Different sadhanas of the different groups, and this is actually called Kadampa Buddhism. You need a qualified spiritual guide. Mahamudra Tantra is defined as a mind of fully qualified clear light that experiences great bliss and realizes emptiness directly. Actual Mahamudra is necessarily a realization of highest yoga tantra. Mahamudra Tantra is a single mind that is both bliss and wisdom. It experiences great bliss and realizes emptiness directly. It is a collection of merit that is the main cause of a Buddha's form body, and a collection of wisdom that is the main cause of a Buddha's truth body or Dharmakaya. When we train in the meditations of Mahamudra Tantra, we are transforming our continuously residing body and mind into a Buddha's form body and truth body. Mahamudra Tantra therefore gives inconceivable meaning to our life. For more information, etc., see the book. Okay, lots of information here that is potentially a bit apart from our current path, but I did want to point it out to you. Okay, now I have the official Summit Lighthouse information for us. regarding the card I showed you and the three bodies of the Buddha, okay? And before I point this out to you, I want to give you a little bit of background to summarize my exposure to CUT as a religion. I'll do that. I'll do that subsequent to presenting this information to you because I have this information available for us. Let me get to it. So I'm reading directly from My I Am Presence, which I believe is an official. It is a Summit Lighthouse or website. Here at the top, they say Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, Zoroastrians, and Sikhs. Okay, as the different. This is official TSL as 5 different paths from which to select. Now, in my training through the Summit Lighthouse with Mother as Guru, we have 8 paths, 8 major world religions as part of the integrated path, and one faith, of course, each of the faiths corresponds to a chakra in the body. Sikhism was not included in that, and these cards we do have Sikh cards now, but it was not, Sikhism was not originally identified as one of the 8. So Sikhism for us comes later in the game, and also is not, as I said, is not counted in the original 8, although now, I have a large 7x9 of this that has, well, speaking of Guru Nanak, it would be Guru Nanak here instead of Zarathustra. So it's interesting that Sikhism we are adherent and interested, but it didn't hit the layout of the 8 initially. For what that matters, probably not a lot, but obviously Sikhism is somewhere in the chakras. But I just want to point that out. The chart of your divine self is a portrait of you and the spiritual reality within you. Okay? So the upper figure, I want to see if I can get it back on the camera here. Or I Am Presence, upper figure, represents the Dharmakaya, the timeless permanent body of the Buddha. The I Am Presence is surrounded by 7 concentric spheres of spiritual light, which some Buddhists know as the rainbow body. These spheres contain all the merit accrued over lifetimes of compassionate acts and right actions. That's the upper figure, called the Dharmakaya. I refer to it as the monad as well. The middle body is your higher self, or inner Buddha, your inner guru, voice of conscience, and dearest friend. In this illustration, the higher self is depicted as the inner Buddha abiding in the body of bliss, the Sambhogakaya. The shaft of white light descending from the I Am Presence to the lower figure in the chart is the crystal cord, or Vajra bridge, which ties you to the heart of the Almighty, to the heart of Buddha, and nourishes the seed of enlightenment within your heart. And this is also the crystal cord that is mentioned in the Bible. It's mentioned in Ecclesiastes. The lower figure depicts you as a spiritual disciple, surrounded by the protective white light and the violet fire. Okay, that's unique to Summit. A high-frequency spiritual energy that transforms the suffering of samsara into positive and loving energy. This figure correlates with the Nirmanakaya, the Buddha's body of transformation. So this temporal body, which is basically you in embodiment, okay? And when you see me in embodiment, everybody in embodiment right now is in this violet flame. You're attempting to make the ascension. This is the Summit teaching. You're attempting to make the ascension to the Dharmakaya by way of the intervention of your higher self. That's how we explain it at Summit. Some Buddhists believe that devotees successively put on the 3 bodies of the Buddha and may experience all 3 simultaneously. This process corresponds to your integration with your divine reality and your final ascent to your God. Okay? So I just wanted to show that. I thought that it might be interesting to Rob if he had not encountered this particular chart. Let me show you again. Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, we call it the higher self, and the lower self, lower figure, Nirmanakaya. the transformation body. Okay, one source of Nichiren Buddhism is really Mahayana. Okay, so it was founded by Nichiren in the 13th century in Japan, and the Lotus Sutra is its central scripture. I think that's probably enough for the time being. I mean, I can read you as much detail as you'd like. And this also says Mahayana tradition. It is also popular in the West and has a fast-growing membership in the UK. Nichiren Buddhism differs from other schools of Buddhism in focusing on this world and in its view that it is the only correct tradition. Interesting, because Summit sure says that about its path, the only correct one. Nichiren is also originally saying that it is the correct path, at least according to this source. An overview of Nichiren Buddhism. Interesting. Nichiren Buddhism was founded on the belief that the true teachings of the Buddha could be found only in the Lotus Sutra. Nichiren Buddhism bases itself on the third turning of the wheel with its belief in Buddha nature and the possibility of liberation in this lifetime, and in this is similar to Mahayana. Britannica will say something as well. School of Japanese Buddhism, named after its founder, the 13th century military prophet and saint Nichiren. It is one of the largest schools of Japanese Buddhism. The quintessence is contained in the Lotus Sutra. Siddharma Pundarika Sutra, the scripture of the Lotus of the Good Law. According to him, the other sects then existing in Japan misunderstood the truth, and he vehemently denounced them and the government that supported them. He blamed the social unrest of the period on the erroneous religious beliefs of the nation and proclaimed that the salvation of the Japanese nation depended on devotion to the truth contained in the Lotus Sutra. He came to conceive of himself as the Bodhisattva, in this instance translated as Buddha to be, and looks like I'm getting some problems here with. I'll be with you guys in a minute.